Paranormal Evidence.
Tonight, see what truly exists inside the world of the paranormal. Join the discussion and review some of the best paranormal evidence captures from a wide variety of experienced and up-and-coming investigators. See and hear what they capture, where they captured it, and how they captured it. Right now on Entity Voices
Paranormal Evidence.
Live.
Good evening and welcome to Entity Voices Paranormal Evidence. I'm Tony Rathman.
I'm Chris Allgood.
I am Audra Keeler.
I'm Lourdes Gonzalez.
And I'm still in love.
You broke up a little bit there. Your audio went out.
I know.
Yeah, of course. You know we're going to fight in the hotel issues now that the show started. Everything's perfect in pre-production. Yeah, I'm Ron Yakovit, and we are still at the Luxor in Las Vegas from the Las Vegas Para-Unity Convention. We stayed for extra days for the vacation of what, 3 years? We haven't had one.
Yeah. Yep.
So it was
Nice.
It was well earned, and it was a very good convention. We were out there as well. Just some fantastic guests they had, and just was great to make the connections with the paranormal community and meet some of them for the first time face to face.
Yeah.
So thoroughly enjoyed that, and enjoyed getting to see Ron and Lourdes as well. We were saddened that Chris and Audra couldn't make it, but we understand schedules are hectic and tough, and we planning on getting together at Trans Allegheny in 2022
in May, and then Audra and I will be at Gettysburg's Battlefield Bash in August of next year.
Very cool.
Well, that's awesome.
That's very cool. That is very
cool. Katie Hulte said Ron and Lourdes don't sleep.
I don't think they do.
I don't think they do either.
Not here we don't. It's not here we don't. She's been doing pretty good with she was playing the Wheel of Fortune game.
Oh,
for a couple of days it was just Wheel of, and then suddenly the fortune showed up.
Yeah, the fortune is always a bonus add-on, but I saw her do some gambling and she was doing quite well. So congrats, Lourdes. That's awesome.
Yeah, I paid for some of this vacation with it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Vegas is no longer cheap. I remember being able to get steak and shrimp for like $5.99.
Right.
I think the cheapest meal I bought was like 20 something a person. That was the cheapest meal.
Oh yeah,
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
corporate has taken over Vegas.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, tonight I am extremely excited about this show for a variety of reasons. One, we get to promote some of our other KGRA hosts, which is Ken DeCosta and George Lopez, who host the show Dead Air Full Spectrum. So if you haven't seen it after watching this, you're going to want to go check it out. They do a fantastic job. The second reason is they supplied some awesome evidence that we're going to get to review tonight. And third, they're both just great investigators and great people. So we are honored and thrilled to have them on tonight. So with that being said, let me bring them in.
Hey guys!
Hello. Yeah, we've been holding down the fort here on KGRA while you guys are out in Vegas filming Hangover 3. So
They haven't released that yet, so it's still just a rumor.
Yeah, what's Bradley Cooper really like?
The struggle is real.
It is real.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for having us, guys. Good to see you guys again.
Yeah.
You
It's
too.
great.
You too.
Nice having you back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everybody out there who watches the show, you thought you were done and rid of us. It's like, no, we're back. We're like Dracula. You have to kill us to get rid of us. Here we are.
Like a boomerang.
That's it. That's it. But
Well,
it's good
I
to
don't
see you
think
guys.
anyone is complaining, and I think they are
No?
happy that you guys are guests on our show tonight. I know we are. And like I said, I went through both Ken submitted evidence and George. So we have got a great set to review tonight, and there's some really good stuff in there. And very excited about the show. Very excited about it. So with that said, because I know, Ken, you've been on the show before, but it was prior to us being on KGRA. And George, this is the first time. Can you give our audience just a little background? I know you have both been investigating for years, but can you each just take a few minutes and just tell us how you got into the paranormal, how it led you up to where you are today, and George, like how you got into writing and being an author, and just a little background story on each of you.
Yeah. Well, Ken, seniority, sir. Go ahead first.
Oh, God. Everybody comes to the field in a different way. Some of us have experiences. Some of us are just curious. I guess I was a combination of both those things. The idea of hauntings and ghosts were the things that came last to me. I was always a UFO, Bigfoot guy. When I was a kid, read everything I could. There wasn't a lot out there to read, really. It's not like it is now. There was no internet and cell phones or any of that stuff. It's like, I know I'm dating myself, but it is what it is. So to me, it's always been a case of I wanted to be able to talk to people who have these experiences and visit the locations that they happen on to draw, my own conclusions, because it's great to read about these things. But, as everybody here tonight knows, there's nothing like going on vacation, paranormally speaking, and taking a little road trip and experiencing this for yourself. And so eventually that happened, and years of that, and that led to 2007 when I established Rise Up Paranormal. And we've been very fortunate that most of the people that are involved in the group are still involved in the group. There hasn't been a lot of drama. There hasn't been anything other than maybe children being born or people moving or buying houses. Life happens. So we're not as involved in everything as we once were, because people have responsibilities. That's what life is. But I think I've always been blessed to be around some great people that I have had the opportunity to work with. Really good investigators, really objective people that all bring a little something different. Some people are into the research angle, some people are into the technology, some people are into, and I think this is the important thing, they're all people. They're compassionate and they really care and they listen. And I think that quality in and of itself is one of the most important things that you can bring to an investigation. So, very, very fortunate to be around people that in their regular lives have to deal with the public. So they have a really good acumen as far as just being the people next door that you invite over, have a cup of coffee with, and you share your stories. So, and that brings us to now. And it's all come down to like being on YouTube. Who knew, right?
Yeah, who knew?
Yep. So true.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah, very much. Thank God for pandemics, right? Oh, it's my turn. Okay. Well, first, I was born in the jungle, and I would have perished had I not been found by a kindly she-ape named Kala, who adopted me and raised me. Oh, wait, that's Tarzan.
A little background music for this.
Jersey born, grew up in a house that did have ghosts, but never really kind of made the connection. They were the Casper type. Henry was his name. And, we didn't think anything of it. Moved to Florida for my dad's job in the 70s, and then went into the military. I was in the Air Force, a Russian linguist living in Germany. What a great job! What a great location! And did listened to Russian pilots. I guess we can disseminate that information now. I don't think it's any more top secret. And then from South Florida, moved up to Central Florida, just south of St. Augustine, and discovered St. Augustine.
Oh,
Wow, that's a good one.
Amazing place.
Yeah.
And that's where I first got my taste of paranormal, by doing the basic things that people were doing out there, taking pictures and bringing out recorders and going to the cemeteries in the area. And I got hooked with the first experiences, and I said, this is what I want to do. I want to discover. And I've told the story before where when I was very, very young, I used to read the magazine called Fangoria. Fangoria always did the behind the scenes of how they made special effects for horror films. And I wanted to see how that worked. This was the same mentality when I started doing paranormal investigating. How does this work? We are breaking ground as we speak right now. I mean, it was for the longest time getting out of the station and that train just rolling slow. But I think we are gaining momentum with what it is that we're doing. I went through that stage of listening to audio EVPs because of my trained ear as a Russian linguist. It allowed me to look at phonetics more so and pick up on a lot of things. Then went into Spirit Box like crazy for the longest time, and it really gained me a little bit of notoriety. And then into the collective consciousness, which for the last 2 or 3 years, I've been incorporating in investigations and doing it during some of these gatherings with Andrea Perrin when we go to these paranormal conventions, and it's been raising a lot of eyebrows. So it's been interesting. And then Andrea Perrin is my co-author. Have I ever mentioned this before, Ken?
No, I don't think you've ever mentioned it. I think it's been 15 minutes since you mentioned it.
I wrote a book with Andrea Perrin. Yes, in the Flickr. It's available on Amazon, but it's high reviews. People really, really love it. So we're thrilled with that. It was a labor of love, and boy, did we fight like cats and dogs putting this together. My God.
Well, that is just an amazing story, George. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you and Andrea originally started her A World Awakening show, which I am currently doing today via video, but you guys started it as an audio podcast, correct?
Yeah, we just, with all the travels that we did, there were conversations over 26 hours going from Florida to the northeastern sector of the United States. And we got philosophical, we got temperamental, we argued about so many different things, but it was like, there's a lot to really address. And we just said, let's just do this second show. We already had Dead Air rolling well, and said, let's go ahead and just do this on a Tuesday night. And it took off from there. It was great. It really was. By the way, I know you were just talking about in May, you're going to be going to Trans-Allegheny. Ken DeCosta has never been to Tala.
Really?
We haven't either.
Oh, this 3 times I've been there. I would love to go back again. Rebecca Jordan Gleason is an amazing host, and that place is super sick active. It's an amazing experience.
It's insanely active.
Yeah,
cool.
No pun intended.
Yeah,
Sherry,
the thing is. Oh, he's talking to Sherry. Okay.
I was just going to ask her. She remembers what the body count we were at, because I think we were allowed.
I think 25.
We hadn't hit 25 yet, had we?
Carrie's watching. Carrie, what's our body count at right now? Have we hit the 25 yet? See if she
body count sounds like a wrong way to put it.
I know.
Well, anyway, if we've got openings, I'll let you guys. We're at 28.
I'll give that a thumbs up for sure.
Does that include Ron and Lourdes who haven't committed yet?
TikTok.
Yeah. You know what I was going to say before, Tony? It's like the baton on the World Awakening has been passed on to you, so you see what your future looks like now.
I'm not sure exactly how to take that.
Right.
If that means my future is like
Oh,
what
you
happened
can take it
to
however you
George.
want to take it. You can interpret
But-
that however you want.
Yes, it includes us.
It includes us. There you go.
What I can tell you though is that, like George said, she's just an incredible woman, and being able to interact with her on a regular daily basis to put that show together. Sometimes, yes, it can be a challenge because of time constraints and other things, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wouldn't.
You guys are great at it.
Thank you. Thank you
guys are
very
great
much.
at it.
But speaking about what you guys are great at, let's talk about evidence, because you guys sent in just some incredible stuff. So you originally sent these in, and I knew which ones were Ken's and I knew which ones were George. But when I added them to StreamYard and renamed them, they put them in alphabetically. So I'm going to tell you the name of it, and then whoever it is.
Oh, it's like a game show. Cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Name that EVP.
Yeah.
Whose line is it? Whose evidence is it anyway? Okay.
Right.
I can name that EVP in 3 notes.
And if neither one of you claim it, I'll know I added something completely wrong. So the first one is titled "Excuse Me."
Okay, that's me.
Excuse you?
Yeah, that would be me. Do you want the setup for that? Are you ready to go?
No,
Yeah,
go ahead and
okay.
give the setup, and then I'll play it.
Yep, really briefly. About 3 years ago, we were invited to take part in the Rivertown Film Festival's fundraiser for their society, for the film. And this was in Rockland County, New York. This is Nyack on the Hudson River. So this particular clip, we were given 6 locations to investigate in 3 days, and had a professional film crew. I mean, Emmy Award type people. It's like, wow, we're way out of our league.
Wow.
But we had 3 days to do it, and they were going to put a documentary, and it's like, gee, I hope something happens for you people, In this particular case, it's a private residence, and there are 2 investigators downstairs, Christopher Blanchett, and maybe you've heard of Cody Ray Desbian.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think Satori just wrote these guys.
Yeah, hi Satori again. It's just, you gotta it's the obligatory harassment.
Just a thorn in my side. Yeah.
The restraining order is coming on you, Satori. So they were downstairs and setting up, discussing camera angles, and this is one of those, maybe 15 seconds in, you're going to hear a female voice with 2 investigators there, and it's audible. It is a disembodied voice, and very, very polite. I would say either that or wondering what these guys are doing there. So you can go ahead and roll the clip. We'll see what everybody thinks.
All right, here comes that clip.
Okay, we're in the basement now of Mariah Lane, April 8th, 2018. Yeah, you might want to set up here, more room, and get a wider shot. Yeah, because I think if we get a wider shot, it would. Did you just see that?
These came out. So.
No. It was it was female.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Heard out loud.
They even reacted to it, so it was heard with human ear.
Yeah, one of them did anyway. Chris did. Cody, because this happens to us sometimes. He was in the middle of a sentence, and this is where it gets a little challenging for us sometimes. I'm preaching to the choir here because you don't know what's going to happen. You're talking, and all of a sudden something pops up, and you're drowning yourself out audibly. But the other investigator, Chris, said, I clearly heard that. Playback, we figured out what it was. So it was just, excuse me. So, I mean, you can interpret that any way. It's like, you guys, or whatever.
Well, what's really interesting about that clip is what I got from it is the expression and the tone that she used during that disembodied voice that you caught. Mm-hmm. It almost sounds like she's trying to squeeze by somebody. And she's like, excuse me.
Possibly. It's probably significant to note that this was not an old house. This was a house built in a development in the 1980s. So it's not your typical turn of the century house or anything like that. So either someone prior. There were no deaths in the house, but this particular house, obviously we were there because they had things going on there, and fortunately, right place, right time. They managed to get that woman's voice. The owners had no idea; they hadn't heard it before, but they were. There was a good reaction we got from them. It's like, are we going to be okay? It's like, I think so. You have a very polite ghost there.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to be okay.
She sounds so sweet.
Let me play that one more time because that was awesome. Here it comes.
Okay, we're in the basement now of Mariah Lane, April 8th, 2018. Yeah, you might want to set up here more room and get a wider shot. Yeah, because I think if we get a wider shot, it would. Did you just hear that?
These came out. So.
No. It was it was female.
Yeah, it was female, so they were able to discern that.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
oh yeah.
And for people watching too, the age of the establishment may or may not factor in. It's good, as Chris always points out, for like situational awareness to know the factors historically, because you may be able to corroborate evidence using that too. But if you're talking about a realm of spirit or another dimension or however they're coming through, and if it's not necessarily bound by space time as we know it, then it's who's to say, or if it's consciousness coming through, then who's to say really, that the age of the place has anything to do with it. Maybe it's transient. I'd be interested to see if you got that voice on repetitive visits, and then seeing that maybe there's some occupation of that location that's happening with that.
Yeah, you're right, Ron. Sometimes we get bogged down in this idea of being earthbound, and we tend to put aside the possibility that there's free will involved. And
absolutely,
these entities come in visitation, and they're actually in a good place.
Right.
But for whatever reason, this place is a beacon or a lighthouse of some sort to them, or a walkthrough, or
doorway.
Maybe there was some type of history there, in the past. But it's not necessarily a case that someone's trapped or grounded. Not all the time.
Right. And what's not debatable whatsoever is that is Class A. Like there's no question that that's an anomalous voice, and that's clear.
Yeah, I totally agree with. There is full tonality there. You can hear almost emotion in the excuse me, and there is some form of accent. I don't know. I don't even want to try to guess, but it is there. I can't tell if it's East Coast or, But
there were manners. And there were manners, and how much do we see that in humanity these days?
Yeah, no.
There were manners.
None.
And she sounds so sweet.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, extremely polite and excuse me. That was incredible. That was absolutely incredible.
Really clear.
Yeah.
All right. So the next one is titled 12 Men.
Okay, that's mine. All right. This particular clip, we were privileged some 10 years ago, now 11 years ago, to be invited into the St. Augustine Old Jail for the first time. And it just was a certain amount of circumstances that worked out. And they said, yeah, we'll let you come in for free. Wow. Yeah, no problem. Let's do it. And so we captured some amazing, some amazing evidence at that time, including a clip, an EVP, which I didn't include for the story, but it said we were only 8, and the curator's eyes got as big as saucers when we played it for him. He says, "George, you don't know this. Nobody else really knows this outside of our organization, but there were only legally 8 hangings that happened at this location." And so we were only, it was mind blowing. To this day, they play it now on the Ghosts and Gravestones trolley tour going up to the jail. So we feel honored by that. But then fast forward to about 2018, they asked us to come back. They had gotten a ghost box and said, we want to see if you can connect and make communication again. And we used this device for the first time right there on camera. We got some tremendous evidence off of that, including them repeating. We were only 8 when I asked them, what did we capture back then? That is played on the tour, so that collective consciousness is there. They're aware of everything going on around them. But this one, I think, was the most profound, as we're up in general population on the second floor, and there's a group of investigators from Palm Coast Paranormal up here that came along with me, some dear friends. And so we decided to give this a try and see if we can get a response. All the responses came from the same voice, which I thought was unique.
Wow. Okay. Cool. Here is that clip.
How many are here with you? Say how many, give me a number. How many are here with you? Repeat the number.
Repeat it again. 12 men.
Did you say 12 men?
Wow, that was good. Yeah,
that
George
was impressive.
Did it again. There was no hesitation. They're like, "Do it now, say it again."
Yeah, there was some good dialogue with them.
Yeah, that was really impressive. Yeah. Not only because of the timing and the relevance, but they repeated it twice. They said 12, and then you asked again to clarify, and then they said 12 men. So I mean, that from a timing and relevance standpoint gives it complete credibility as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's not only a direct response with the number repeated, but then they specifically mentioned it's men. It's 12 men. So the intelligence there is
there's no other way to explain that other than Tony said the timing and relevance. It's clearly not residual. That's intelligent. That's aware, and that was even going into the extra detail at the exact time that they asked for it. I mean, you can't serve it up much better than that.
No, you can't, because like you said, anytime you're dealing with a spirit box, the two things you look for are the timing of the response and the relevance to the question asked. It doesn't get any more direct than those two answers. And then it was repeated saying 12 men. So that was fantastic.
Yeah. Well, the higher point of the intelligent response was he didn't ask what was the gender. He didn't ask. He said, ask how many. Can you repeat that? And then it came back with 12 men. So not only was it an intelligent response, it was a specific intelligent response. That's undeniable. Yeah.
Right. And we don't know sometimes too, with you're talking about temporal synchronization when we're not communicating line of sight transmission, right? Reception. So who's to say that the first time they said 12 men, but only 12 came through. And then when he asked to repeat it, they got both words through the second time, right? Who knows if that's even the case, but clearly a response directly to what he asked for when he asked for it. And that is as good as it gets as far as I'm concerned when you're looking for evidence.
I was on a crusade for God knows how many years. Ken probably even got sick of it when we were still doing just the radio show without the video, where I said, listen, so important for people out there that are using devices like this, or any device for that matter, redundant response. So critically important. If you're using some sort of an Ovilus, or you're using a spirit box or any of the others out there, asking them to repeat or using trigger words. You can come out there and say, I need you guys to say entity voices paranormal for me over the device, and see if you can come back from it. That's critically important, and it's not done enough to validate what it is we're communicating with. Repetition and valid words and trigger words also.
I hope anybody watching who's new to the field, I hope anybody new to the field watching has a pen and paper out, or they're recording this, or they're going to watch it again, because they've already, both Ken and George have already instilled two important educational points for people who want to do this, because you're vetting the authenticity of what you get, and you have people who aren't going to believe you or going to question you or what happened at the time. Are you sure? No matter what happens. So I mean, when you can do certain things like that as part of your protocol, and then pre-qualify almost what you're getting like that, that's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to have confidence in what you're presenting. So the idea is, it may be self-defeating to ask these questions, and at the end of it, if you're honest, you might say, yeah, I don't think we have anything there. That's okay. There's no shame in that.
Right.
You just keep plugging away, because if you're going to present something, you want to have the strength of your convictions to do that. That we asked the questions that you're probably asking. Yes, we did. So very, very important. That's just an incredibly important point.
Yeah, any of the low-hanging fruit for the cynic you can take off the table, the better. Because this stuff, even for people who want to believe, it's for a lot of people, it's hard to believe that we actually do and get what we do and get, right? And Arthur C. Clarke always said any sufficiently advanced technology is almost indiscernible from magic, right? So we're doing something that we're taught for years, not possible, can't be done.
No question.
But lo and behold,
here it is.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. But I completely agree with what both Ken and George said about unbelievable points about, verifying what you have, and that you've balanced all your variables to make sure that they fall outside of those realms of, something that could be easily distinguished as, a common cause. And they clearly do that, and they've clearly done that for years. So I agree. Great examples of people that if you're taking notes, if you're learning, you want to know how to do it. These two are definitely ones to learn from. So that's good stuff.
Yeah,
I want to just tell Katie in chat, I love you too, Katie.
And to back up on everybody's point, we talk about it. We talk about situational awareness, knowing the history of your location, knowing where you're at. We talk about the importance of the review, but there's a lot of times we neglect the importance of the presentation. If you guys aren't watching every show that we have, all of the guys that come on here, all of our guests that come on here that present, they know where they were, they know the history, they know who was in the room, they know who was talking, they get intelligent responses. Presentation to remove doubt from anybody else. We do our review, we know what we were doing, we know when we present evidence that's paranormal. Removing doubt from people seeing it by knowing all those things in line when you present is also a portion of paranormal investigating. It's not just the doing everything I just said, but the presentation is huge. It's like Ron says, you get somebody that's a non-believer that's going to sit there and doubt everything you do. But when you can present all those facts in line with everything you bring, and then what George and Ken just showed us on top of all that, that's how you present. And that's how you become a great investigator, because you know all of that and you lay it out on the table and say, here, doubt me.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Chris. And let's face it, this is not a task that's easily undertaken, because there's nothing you can put out that somebody can't come forward and say, oh, that's Photoshop, or you used some video editing or you added audio in. But let's face it, somebody who's truly involved in this wouldn't do that in the first place anyway, because it takes the field absolutely nowhere.
Right.
But there's nothing you can probably put out that a true person who's going to pull it apart can do it regardless of whatever you capture. And like Ron, you always say, somebody looking for Bigfoot could lose their car keys. Bigfoot could hand it to them and they still wouldn't believe in them. But that's the challenge within the paranormal, is that we're working with unknown variables that fall outside of the scientific realm of the 3D world and don't apply to the world we're investigating. So, stopping skepticism, that's probably never going to happen. But being skeptic isn't necessarily a bad thing, because you need a certain degree of it in order to produce evidence that breaks the rules of what truly is possible. So those are all great points.
Yeah, we're at a situation, we're at an impasse right now where it hasn't been established that there's contact with spirit. Without question, there's too much evidence out there. There will be those, as you said, that are always going to be naysayers. I can explain it all the way. Well, good for you. We're not here to impress you. The important
and they can't.
Right, but what we do here is just the stepping stones towards consistent connection. What we're doing here is finding out what is the device, what is the location, what is the procedure, what is the person. And maybe we'll get into that tonight with Ken, Rise of Paranormal, and Cody and Satori, and the miracle that's happening right now. But that is why we do what we do. We're looking for the procedures and the places and the people that will advance this field. Because the bottom line of it is, I don't want to know, is there a God or is there, I don't want to get into theology. But if I can talk to my mom who passed away 4 years ago and just say hi and I love you, that it's like a long distance phone call. I'm happy with that. And the field would be happy with that.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we need to fall back on and remember.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's an excellent point.
Well
Excellent.
put. Very well put.
All right. So the next one I'm going to play is called Cold Spots.
Same place, same location, kind of self-explanatory. Watch the young lady on the left-hand side, closest to me, as we continue this dialogue over this echo box.
All right. Here comes that clip.
Cold spots. Raise your hand if it happens.
I just stopped.
Wow.
Hard to hear.
Wow.
I hear it.
It was me asking, hey, could you give cold spots around somebody standing near them? And then the girl on the left-hand side starts to react. And that's,
Yeah.
you know,
That was great.
Upon it. Yeah.
That was great. Quick question though for you, George. The box that's being used, is that
GeoBox.
Is that George Brown's?
GeoBox.
Okay, yeah, I thought I recognized it.
Yeah. The curator he built a museum in the tourist center. He's the organizer for Ghost and Gravestone tours for the old jail. Dave Chatterton, Salt of the Earth, great guy. And Dave contacted me and wanted me to go in there. He says, but I bought this new thing that's going in the museum. It would be great to have video to go along with these items that we're putting into the museum, a coffin and all kinds of other stuff he picked up on eBay of all places.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's awesome.
It worked.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. George is known to create good stuff, so no doubt about it. All right. So the next one I have is an EVP titled Get Out of My Way.
Yeah, Ken's heard this. This one here is one of my all-time favorites. This was captured in what I consider to be paranormal boot camp, a place here in Florida called Kerr City, in the middle of the Ocala National Forest. Don't look it up as Cursed City. It's Kerr if you guys want to Google it. But this was only active, this town, from 1888 to 1911. And they went through a horrible freeze and a fire. But in all the tragedies that went in this place, and that's for a whole nother time, there's so much that was captured. We would take walks constantly out to the cemetery. On this particular night, it was myself, a gentleman named Bob Beck, who had a deeper voice than me, and then a young lady by the name of Jackie. Now, you're going to hear Jackie on this audio to begin with, and she's talking about putting a piece of equipment back into her pants pocket. You won't hear me, and you won't hear Bob at the level of our voice, but you're going to hear a fourth voice, a non-existent voice or person that I call the Michael Jackson audio, because it sounds just like Michael Jackson.
All right, here is that clip.
All right, I'm gonna hook this back into my pants.
Fuck you. Get in my way.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so you have the full audio to play it again if you can. It says, effing get out of my way. Effing get out of my way. And I'm like, Michael Jackson's in a rush in the middle of Florida. I don't know where he's going.
Disneyland. Where else?
Yeah, exactly.
Unbelievable. Yes, let me play that again.
Yeah.
And here it comes.
All right, I'm gonna hook this back into my pants.
Fuck you. Get in my way.
Yeah, that's good.
That does sound
That
like him. That
attitude.
sounds exactly like him.
Yeah.
It does. It's a little bit more harsh than just beat it.
Yeah. I was waiting for the
Bada boom.
And all these people wanted to pay top dollar to get out to Neverland Ranch, and here he is right here in the middle of the Ocala National Forest.
In Ocala.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That's proof. That's proof right there.
That's
awesome.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, tone. You can get like the voice tonality, and there's like emotion to that, and
that was Michael Jackson, man.
Yeah.
Let me play that one more time, just in case somebody didn't catch it, because that's exactly who it sounds like. Here it comes.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
All right, I'm gonna hook this back under my pants.
Fuck you. Get him away.
Oh my God.
It sounds
That's
like
good.
he's doing a song.
Yeah.
Like a song.
That's awesome.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
That's really good. That's
Yeah,
really good.
Listen, I'll tell you, and maybe for another show we'll get into Curse City. The depth and the drama and the horror of this location is just endless. Over 14 years we'd been there multiple times, and one of the last times we went, there was an event at Seven Sisters Inn, and we went out there with Johnny Zaffis and Brian Kano and Andrea Perrin and about 30 other people who had tremendous experiences in this area. So, it just was incredible. The owners passed away. They were in their 90s. I think their children took it over, and it's just not accessible as it used to be. But what an incredible place. Incredible.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, it's a hell of a calling card for the location.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Straight up.
Huge. Can't beat that one.
That's
all
good.
right. So the next one I'm going to play is titled I Told You.
All right, who's claiming that one?
I know.
Yeah, George loaded it up. We only got an hour here. You know what I mean?
No, we can go over. We can go over.
I don't know. I told you.
You know what? Let me play it,
I don't
and
think
then whoever it is, you can tell us some background on it after I play it. So here comes that clip.
Why are you here?
I told you murder.
Well.
Wow.
That would be me.
That was George.
And George, you heard most of that in the moment, correct? You heard most of that during that moment?
Yeah, I think a good portion of it was audible to everybody, such as 12 men. They're all going 12 men. That it's a lot clearer, I think, than through the microphone. But in this one here, again, one of the girls was asking, why are you here? I told you, for murder. Listen, it's like
we talked about on past shows. We've talked about the inborn pattern recognition and how we have to learn and train to listen to the devices. But I think this is a great example because of the geo boxes, the white noise or what's emanating from that box is not sound like a mirrored audio of what you get from like an SB7 or a ghost box. Let's say Katie or Steve Holte's ghost boxes. They have a very clean, nice, smooth sweep to it. It sounds different than that. So you have to learn even to listen to those that way.
Spring reverb is what you're hearing. That's what the Geo box was originally built on, and judging by how that one looks, it would have been one of the first ones. So basically it's radio RF signals scanning, but when the voice comes through, it goes through the old guitar spring reverb sound, and that spring reverb is about this big by about that wide, sits in the bottom of the box, and actually gives the spring vibrates from the sound, and that's what the whole spring reverb thing is.
Got it. And where I was going with this was that really speaks to George mentioned in the beginning of the show with his past in the military and his having a trained ear. That really speaks to it because he's catching these things that are coming in on on different types of sounds or devices in the moment in real time, and that does take training.
Yeah.
Plus, you've got a prisoner who apparently is mansplaining the whole thing to that poor girl.
And
I told you,
would it not-
listen.
Yeah, it would not be normal again that they look down on women because of that time frame.
Right. Yeah, the only thing left out of that one was "Don't make me tell you again."
Yeah, right.
Second black eye, exactly. So,
Good point. Good point. All right, so I'm gonna take a guess whose this is, just by the title, and the title is "I Want George."
Yeah, this is. I had some young. Ken, did you want to take a coffee break or anything?
I'm gonna run out and do a little grocery shopping here.
I'm glad every single one of my titles
You
I
didn't
put
watch
AAA.
Sesame Street as a kid. There's actually 26 letters, you know. I'll be back.
All right. So the location again, Kerr City. This is a couple of the young kids that I had on the team. Again, this was, we called it boot camp for a reason. Kerr City was a place that we brought new trainees. We honed our own skills. We honed new equipment, procedures, and we also even brought friends, family, or in the case with John Zapps and all them, just dignitaries to a sense to come out. But
awesome.
Some of my younger investigators, again, taking the trek out from home base, which was Twin Oaks, out to the cemetery, and they captured this on the recorder as they were running it, traveling over there. So just take a listen.
All right, here's that clip.
I wish I would have started TV.
Wow, that was super clear. Let me play that again.
Yeah, do it again.
I wish I would have started TV.
Yeah.
Wow,
No further questions.
Yeah.
that was excellent.
Done.
He was friends with Michael.
That's awesome.
That was really clear. That was a great EVP.
What's unique, if you hit it one more time too, Tony, but listen, it's almost as if, because you hear all the movement, the distortion, the static, and she comes through past that or before that. It's like it's almost like in your ear. You can hear it closer to you than everything
Yeah,
else.
in front of.
Right. Let me play that one more time.
I wish I would have started TV.
That's
incredible.
that's crazy.
That is true.
Do you think possibly that could be, if because we don't know how they get the EVPs on the recorders, if that's, let's say, an imprint, right? Can that be something maybe to how the Doppler effect works when something's coming towards you as the wave gets smaller, but the impact of the sound is higher, and then it kind of trails off as it moves away? Maybe that was a proximity thing with placing the EVP on the recorder, because that's super clear.
Yeah.
I would totally defer to Ken on that. I don't know anybody who's got more knowledge and background with regards to digital audio recorders, but I don't know, Ken, what do you think?
No, I think that what it is you get some kind of white noise that's created from an external source too. You know, because we've experienced those same kind of things. Real short story with Cody and Satori trying to have them hold a recorder in their hand and just doing different experiments, and everything was fine, clear as you're hearing me now. In the allotted block of time they gave someone to speak, it just seemed to oscillate, white noise oscillating, wow, 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 for that 10 to 15 second block. And then when they were through, it was as clear as we're talking again right now. So when we talk about white noise being a catalyst for this to kind of, in being an enabler, so to speak, I just wonder if it is possible that it is also generated from the other side when you are actually recording this. I'd like to try it with analog too. I'd like to try it with magnetic tape as well, or a different type of, not just a condenser microphone, maybe a dynamic microphone. Just throw all this stuff against the wall, see what sticks.
That's brilliant.
Right.
That's brilliant, and it makes complete sense, because the once it comes into our realm, once your recorder captures it, at that point it is in some way in league with laws of science and physics where we are. But the source and from where it's coming, the part we don't know, that very well would have to have some energy or some source or something that propagates, that gets it to where you're receiving it.
That's an excellent point, Ron. And one of the things that is on my list to test is that the physical mechanics of how a sound wave works and how a mic captures that sound wave. My proposal is to take a digital recorder and remove the mic completely and see if I can still get EVPs, because my theory is that they're not using the mic at all.
Right, and there is a legend who you know quite well who has already tested those waters, and
Alexander McRae.
Absolutely, absolutely, over in Scotland, and he's gotten ridiculous EVPs without a microphone on the device whatsoever.
Yeah, that's definitely a next test, because, you know, like you said, those times when you put out 2 or 3 recorders and it only shows up on one, a sound wave wouldn't impact every single one of them. Our scientific or our physics of the 3D world would not allow that to happen, which means that it's not your typical sound wave and it's being placed some way else. And yeah, I want to take I've got digital recorders laying around all over the place. I'm going to pull the mic and see if I can still get EVPs.
Well,
can we bring this? I was going to say, can we bring it back to George? Were there other recorders running when you caught that?
No, they just the one as they were heading out to the cemetery.
Okay,
interesting. Tony, I've got a really interesting idea. You know where a great place to try that experiment would be Trans-Allegheny.
Sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
As active as that location is, that would be a great place for that experiment.
Yeah, Lily's room would be a great spot.
Yeah, it would.
All right. I've never been there either, so this will be my first trip out there as well.
Ooh.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah.
Well, who's been? Which of you guys have been there?
Here.
They're going to sit back like they're watching Netflix, watching you guys there.
Oh yeah,
probably.
The other thing you might want to try to do that people have done is just leave magnetic tape out without a machine. Just drop it on a pillow someplace and then play it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So George, you've been to Trans-Allegheny.
Cody mentioned in track, if magnetic fields are actually being manipulated in order to manifest these voices, doing something like that might at least process of elimination. But my understanding is people have tried it and gotten some really weird things on that tape.
Right.
And the reason I bring up Trans-Allegheny is because George can verify. I mean, 25 years of doing this, I have yet to see a place that's more active. So this place would be the ideal place to do experiments in my opinion.
Yeah. I'll definitely have it ready by then. No problem with that at all. We'll bring ones with mics and 1 or 2 without. And
yes,
I think I saw Cody just post that, I think they're left through EMF, magnetic energy. And I believe that to be correct. I don't think the mic is used at all because there's no vocals, there's no throat, there's no sound wave coming from it, or we'd hear it with our own ears. Now, granted, sometimes that can occur, but then it would be on every recorder, not just one, which means it's being transmitted in a different manner. And I want to see what happens to pull the mic. So.
If I could, I would like to ask Ken if he is comfortable with bringing up the multiple tapping, Ken, and the results of maybe discovering that is speech.
How far over an hour do you want to go?
I know.
Yeah, during those sessions where we have allowed spirit to try to speak using their voice, a quick burst of taps happens at the same time that ostensibly they're supposed to be speaking. This has happened on multiple occasions. So, I mean, it begs the question, they say they can, but is this how it manifests itself? Because we didn't pick up a voice. We just picked up an oscillating static. But nonetheless, when that opportunity was given to them, rhythmic, quick bursts of taps on the floor for those 10 or 15 seconds that we were giving them the floor, so to speak.
Yeah.
So again, I mean, questions, answers, more questions. So like anything else, this is a process.
But
it's always more questions. I mean, that's a never ending.
That's fine.
Right. Exactly. And
good. Because you know what? After so much time, I'm running out of questions now. It's redundancy a lot. So having a little bit of a breakthrough like this and coming at it from a different angle, I mean, it's invigorating. It's really a motivating thing to start using the noggin again and start thinking of new things, you know. And that's something that if you've been kicking around for a while, you desperately need to do.
The discoveries that have been happening, particularly in this field, particularly with some of the experiments that they're doing with Cody and Satori, again, fall back to some of the questions I've had with Ken in the past too, which is, you know, sometimes when we're investigating and we hear this knock out of nowhere, there's a knock. Well, okay, is that somebody rapping, tapping, whatever? And is that the possibility that that is a very minuscule transfer through dimension? And that's how they're coming through. And there's a popping sound as it comes through. So these multiple smaller pops is that conversation, is that vocal coming through in the same way cross-dimensionally. There's so much more that we still have to experiment with and find out whether or not we can nail down what it is that we're experiencing and get a true definition to these noises, to these anomalies.
So true, so true. And you know, great point. And yes, we've heard those anomalies as well, wondering if they're coming from our 3D world or whether it's some kind of transmission from the other side. And those are answers we'll just have to get. But I want to make an announcement. So it's anybody who's listening on the KGRA radio, in 6 minutes, they are going to, well, probably in 2 minutes, they are going to switch over to their next KGRA show. And if you wish to move on to that next show, thank you for listening. If you'd like to continue listening, because we are going to continue this show, you can go to KGRA, Facebook, YouTube. You can go to Entity Voices, Paranormal Evidence-Live, Facebook, the Entity Voices YouTube, and this show will continue. So if you're going to switch over, thank you for listening. Otherwise, we will continue on. So thank you.
But don't.
All right. Oh, and one last thing, if you haven't left yet, if you'd like a 30% discount to a yearly subscription of KGRA, and that includes Entity Voices, that includes Dead Air, Full Spectrum, and all of the shows that KGRA broadcasts, you can use 21 EVPE, and that'll give you a 30% discount off a yearly rate. So again, 21 EVPE.
Don't forget the meteor shower tonight too.
Oh, thank you. And yes, Bill Forte from KGRA is actually going to broadcast the meteor shower. So maybe just something else to get you excited about maybe making a purchase to KGRA. It supports all of our shows and supports the station as well. So it's a good help for everything to keep up and running too. So content such as this can continue to head your way. So, okay, enough of the promos. Let's go back to some fantastic evidence.
Yeah.
And to be specific, that's not 2021. That's for a whole year.
Yes, it will last a year. It was designed for the year 2021, but it'll still work until our 2022 comes out. All right, so the next clip I'm going to play is titled, "I'm Uncomfortable with This."
Hey, I got one.
That dart finally.
All right, I'm out of here. That's it.
I had to bump up my alphabet game here a little bit. From now on, I'm just going to write A's in front of everything. Okay, so real quick, once again, we are in Nyack, and we are down in the basement of this gentleman's house. And again, we're filming there for a documentary. One of our cameramen is, you're going to see him in the clip, and I'm standing there. I think Cody's down there too. And we've got one of those little, like, I think it's Rufus. We named this particular toy dog with the proximity sensors on it. And we have some other gizmos that we've laid out there, and we're just trying to encourage anybody who's there to maybe interact with this kind of thing. So that brings us pretty much exactly to what you're going to see on this clip. And we get a response from someone we didn't hear at the time that we found pretty interesting after we had finished the session.
All right, fantastic. Here is that clip.
You don't even move it. You just touch it. That ball right in front of the dog.
I wonder. Oh, there's one over here. Oh, there's one over here.
So
wow.
Very good. Yeah.
So there's your answer.
That's amazing.
So if we're going to project a little bit, this particular home is, I mean, we were at a home there literally from the 1700s. This one is not 1700s, but probably early 1900s, maybe, taking a guess. So we can project the very idea that someone is just not familiar with what we have or is not clear on exactly what they're asking them to do. So we can't assume that when we cross over, we're enlightened about everything and every device and every language. And, you know, so maybe we don't want to take that leap of faith, but this suggests that perhaps there's some hesitancy there. So again, we're talking about people retaining character and personality and memories, so forth and so on, which at the end of the day, kind of what we're going for, to see what happens if we're just a ball of energy or we retain our soul, for lack of a better word, our character or the characteristics that made us who we are in life. So it's a good suggestion now that someone's there, literally very, very politely, but to the point, who says, I'm uncomfortable with this. No, yeah.
All that kept coming to my mind was that sounded like a grown ass man saying, I'm uncomfortable with playing with your puppy. You know, kind of this whole thing is kind of
touch it. I don't want to touch it.
Where was the Michael Jackson voice when we needed it?
That's not a real dog. You can't fool me. That is not a real dog, right?
Yeah.
Right.
We're sitting there going, I don't know if you noticed, but your dog is dead. And I'm not comfortable.
Yeah, really, it's not breathing and it's not coming back anytime soon.
I love Ken's assessment after the fact too with that, because that's the way you have to approach and think about this stuff. There's a lot of assumed aspects of what we think they do know or might not know and are addressing or don't know, or so that's really important to have as much of a spherical thought pattern, to not just think in one direction, but to see all the possibilities of what you're capturing like that. Right. That's a very important educational point.
Yeah.
Well, and to add to that point, you'll see this a lot. We see this quite a bit on TV where they'll go, hey, come talk to my EMF detector. I've got a digital recorder in my hand. Well, if you're talking somebody from the 1800s, the 1900s, they don't know what the hell that thing is in your hand. You got to explain it to them.
Right. And like Ken said, if they're enlightened, they may know. And if they're not, they may not. So
if they're not, they might not.
Correct. But taking
story, Friday when we were in a location, every time we go here, we've been there 11 years, you know, we get redundant to explain this is a recorder, this is what we're using, to the point that we assume that if you can hear me, you already know. And in one case, there was a spirit there, a young girl,
amazing,
who said that she has responded to us in the past, and I believe so. We've recorded. You guys have heard some of those recordings, in fact, on the previous show.
Yep.
But I think we've pinpointed who it was, and we literally asked, do you know what this is, a recorder? The response was no, which was kind of like surprising to me. It's like, okay, well, and then now we have to explain what this is all over again, because maybe we took it for granted.
Right.
A little bit, or maybe we didn't explain it correctly, what it does. Here, it records your voice. I don't know what records means.
Right.
It didn't exist. The only recording we ever did was maybe when we wrote in a book. So we can't assume those things. We have to break it down.
Right.
Well, and to help our audience that are new investigators too, some of the things that Audra and I like to do, like we do the 1830s Montgomery House. We'll go in and explain, do you see this thing that's emitting a light? This light here is this red light. If you speak into what we have in our hand, this red light here, we'll be able to hear your voice later, and we can listen to any messages that you might communicate to us. That way we disseminate with the spirits. If they don't understand what that thing is in our hand, at least they understand that there's a light coming from this thing in my hand, and if you talk to it, we can hear you.
Yeah. My only regret that night was, if I knew this was going to happen, and I will next time, I will bring recordings with a speaker and I will play them back and say, "Is this your voice? Did you respond?"
That's
there may be that.
Oh, yeah.
That's
there may be that recognition.
That's an excellent idea. Yeah.
That is an excellent idea. I love the fact, though, that you guys do take the time to explain the device, how it works, how they can use it. And I think that does make a difference, because that was a question that paranormal investigators always used to kind of agree or disagree about, was, do older spirits know what these devices are? And the fact of the matter is, I think it's just like if you went to a random person and said, "What am I holding?" If it's a K2, some are going to know, some are not going to have any clue at all. So being able to tell them what it is, maybe what it's called, how it works. But the whole point of this story is that Ron Lourdes, Cherie, and I were in White Hill Mansion, and I had a parabolic mic running upstairs. We have not released this version yet, but two of our friends went up into this haunted bloody bathroom, I think it was called, and the parabolic mic is running, and they are not talking about equipment. And this deep voice comes over the recording and says, "Ovulus." And 2 or 3 seconds later, you hear the Ovulus say a word. And so we instantly sent it to them and said, "Did either one of you say this?" And they're like, "That was not us." So it was really, really cool to hear a voice which was unaccountable for say the word "Ovulus."
Yeah.
Wow.
And mind you, it's built in 1723.
Yeah.
And it knew how to say "ovulus" and it pronounced it correctly. It was awesome.
Yeah. I'm
Right.
sure
The pronunciation was correct.
Yeah.
Well, this is a much longer story, and I'll just say, we had to explain this past Friday night, what a balloon was.
Yeah, incredible.
Because we had brought that in, so we had to explain what a balloon was. And then the question came back, how is it floating? So we had to explain how it's floating, and then a question came back, why? Like, why do you have this? What is a 4-year-old? What is the purpose of
Obviously, they've never been to Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, you have no. Yeah. It's like, what have you conjured here with this air-filled floating piece of paper? You know.
So doesn't that make you wonder if maybe what you're communicating with may not be spirit, but maybe another dimension that hasn't experienced the balloon?
In this particular case, no, Lords, because there was specificity to who they were
and the dates and the years
spelled out and identified. And this is a return visit. So who welcomed us the first time was also present the second time, so we knew exactly who we were talking to.
Okay.
Wow. And as I had asked Ken, when we had a conversation about this, was this before the time of dirigibles? And he said they basically were only in Europe, Germany for that matter, and hot air balloons were basically only in France at that time. So the idea of something that small filled with a gas that is going to allow this thing to stay, they had no concept.
No clue, right.
Which was great, because we were able to talk about our existence, and they were able to talk about their existence. So we got rid of the who are you, when were you born? We did that the first time. This particular case, we had a conversation. We had a metaphorical cup of coffee, and that's the way we approached it. Incredible. Cody and Satori on this again, God bless them, they did the heavy lifting. We were able to have a conversation.
I want to point out something to our viewers with George and Ken here, guys. You guys, if like Ron and Tony said earlier, if you guys aren't taking notes tonight, you're not paying attention. Talk about historical situational awareness. George and Ken knew at what time and what location that dirigibles, if I even said that right.
Yes.
Okay. At what section of the country and what section of the world they were in and what sections they weren't. So they could identify with the spirit that was involved that they were communicating with would have no knowledge of them at that present time. That is expert situational awareness right there. And if you guys aren't watching, these guys are phenomenal. That is fantastic.
Oh, thank you, Chris. We had actually done that in real time while this was going on, because we asked that question. It's like, when were balloons made? And, you know, there was a guy in France who was toying around with hot air balloons at that time. But this is, you know, Coventry, Rhode Island in the 1860s.
Right.
You know, no chance these people. So again, I go back to my other point that we can't assume that there's some enlightenment. They are still living the existence that they are, and their knowledge is, I don't want to say limited, but it's not all encompassing as we might assume that it is.
Right. Or maybe that perhaps they haven't ascended to that level of existence. Maybe they are still earthbound and they haven't enlightened or evolved to the point where they are, where there's a greater wisdom, where there's morphogenic fields, and the collective consciousness, you know, has this, you know, all-encompassing knowledge of things. You know, maybe they're not at that point yet. The fact that you do what you do with that approach, with that thought process and that continuity of procedure, that I agree with Chris 100%. That's just flat out brilliant, and that is something that people should take notes on. That you guys do that.
Yeah, I completely agree. But it does scare me, though, that if the majority of humans are going to stay at the mentality level that they left at, I mean, that's pretty much, that would be hell.
I don't know. I've been at the mentality level I was in high school for quite a few years now.
Changed it all.
Keep it in mind, though, Tony, one's man hell might be another man's heaven when it comes to that. And
that is an excellent point.
At the same location, quite a few years back, Ken invited me to come out there with them, and we did a collective consciousness experiment. We'll go into that another time with the show, or somebody can Google it and find out. But we had some guests that were there, and one was a young couple, and the young couple slipped into this meditation type state, and one was connecting with the mother, and the other one was connecting with the daughter. And they talked, and they held hands, and their eyes were closed, and they talked about the fondness of being out in the garden and gardening together. That was their heaven. That was their heaven. Keep in mind, those were exceptionally. This was a very strong Christian faith area of the country. They were exceptionally religious during that time, and so that thought of purgatory. What if I killed a bug? Is that committed a sin? I don't want to cross over and wind up having to serve my penance. I don't want to do this. I'm content with this. I know.
Right.
So they're still in that state rather than moving on. This was way before existentialism. This is way before people started questioning religion, you know, whether it be in the 50s or 60s, you know, which is why we don't catch too many spirits with, you know, members only jackets. You know, they've already moved on. Heaven or hell is gone. But a lot of these times you hear about you hear the soldiers or the lady in white or the little children. They were in a time period where religion was their core. So to cross over and say, okay, I'm going to go into the light and go, I may have done some things I'm not proud of, and that they stick around. You know,
that's a great point, and good point. You know, the whole thing about all of this is that we don't know all the variables in play. In fact, we know very few, if any, and that's what keeps us always guessing and wondering. And that's why when you guys were talking before about having that open mind, it's an absolute necessity to keep those questions coming, because there's just too many questions to be asked and answered to you know, be able to pinpoint any of them yet at this point. But those are all great points, George. Great points.
Yeah, very good points.
Yeah.
All right.
Top-notch evidence that speaks to it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
the next one I'm going to play is titled "Is Katie Your Name?"
Yeah.
It's another Ken.
Down here. This is one that is interesting because it was the first time. Now we're going back to this exact location we were just talking about, but this is 2 years ago. And we were doing an experiment where I had a microphone set up in that room, and I was listening remotely in another room with the doors closed, headphones on, and I'm hearing what's going on in there. And during this session, I am not to interrupt. And the people that are conducting it are not to speak at all, save for asking a question. And what happens is you get about 6 people sitting around a table, and the first person has a question, whatever is on their mind, is there anybody here? Okay. So they'll wait 10 seconds. The person to their right will repeat the same question. After 10 seconds, the person to their right will repeat the same question. This will go around the table until all 6 people have asked. Then the person to the right of who started it will ask a different question. And it will go on like this, with everybody repeating the same question with a pause in between until 6 questions are asked.
Okay.
And then what I will do at the end of it, because I'm listening in real time, so I will mark something, but they are not to speak save for asking and repeating those questions. In this particular case, we were looking for an entity we'll call Sarah. And someone asked for Sarah. When it got to the third person, this woman said, "Is Katie here?" So she made a mistake. She didn't say Sarah. She said the wrong name. She said Katie. And she paused. And I heard this in real time, but I couldn't say anything because it would defeat the purpose, right?
Right.
So this is what I heard after she asked if Katie was there. And just bear in mind, she made a mistake.
All right.
So you
Here
can play that for me.
Is that clip.
Is Kitty here with us tonight?
Yes, I'd like to hear that again.
Yep.
Yes, I would like to hear that again.
All right, here it is. That was
for asking.
incredible.
Thank
Is Kitty here with us tonight?
That's fantastic.
That's
So
great.
Wow. So knowing what we know now, we know that there was never a Katie there. We know they can hear us. They're communicating with us. This particular spirit became confused because Sarah is her name. So whoever responded when someone said, asking for Katie, they did not know who Katie was. So in response, they asked a question.
Right.
Is Katie your name? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know a Katie. Who is Katie?
Or she asked another spirit or entity, is Katie your name? Because she was expecting Sarah.
Yeah.
Quite possibly, but 2 people before her asked for Sarah, and then she broke ranks on this. But the biggest thing that came out of this is like they're asking us questions.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
There was confusion on their part, and they were trying to ask for clarification. The woman obviously didn't hear her. I did, because I was listening in a lower frequency. But that was just mind blowing to me.
That's why sometimes I love when I make mistakes. Sometimes I make some mistakes and they reply with a correction. They correct me.
Yeah.
Right.
So sometimes it's okay to make mistakes because
Sure.
sometimes they'll chime in and they'll correct you or ask questions.
What a display of self-control and sticking to your guns procedurally. To hear that in the moment and know you can't say anything and not say anything, because the inner part of you that's still passionate about this wants to jump up and woo-hoo this thing, but you can't.
Right. Ron, it took a lot of self-control.
I can't imagine.
And obviously, I'm in the other room going like this, like pumping my fist, and then they continued on.
I thought that was important to point that out, because when we've been doing it, you guys have been doing this for a long time too. Anytime we get something, it never gets passe. We never go, oh yeah, it's always phenomenal what we're achieving when you get anything. And for you to do what you did and stay in the saddle for people watching, and if you're writing stuff down like we've told you should, That is not easy to do what Ken did.
Seriously.
No, I'm not going to lie.
It was a statement, and it was it wasn't a statement, it was a question, and it was clear, and it was 4 words. That's like a huge, big deal.
Yeah.
No,
I can tell you right now, 75% of us, with all the experience that we have, with all the years of investigating collectively, we would have been going, "Holy shit! Did you hear that?"
Yeah, you're right.
You are correct, sir. I was wholly shitting telepathically at that because I didn't want to break ranks. But no, you're absolutely right. You know, I'm flipping my shit in the other room. You know, and it's like, God, we've got another 20 minutes here. But it was worth it when everybody came out and we played it. These were guests; they weren't investigators. We used regular people who came in that night, who had no clue, you know, what it was I was trying to do in terms of focus and that collective energy. This is why we're repeating the same question. Right. Because the other thing we're trying to get at is maybe it only replies to one person.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And maybe there's something about that person. Yeah, we don't know. I mean, again, this is why we call it research, right?
Right.
Wow, we don't know, but you're talking about a co-resonance with the energy of a person in our material living world. And if you do something like that experimentally, repetitively, and you're able to produce a result, let's say the same person, but George knows what I'm talking about. That's called collection and aggregation of data. And when people talk about science coming to the table and accepting this stuff, I've said this on other shows, the paranormal field, the evidence, the continuity of evidence, whether it's EVP, visual, audible, whatever, any team, anywhere on the planet, the characteristics of the evidence is synonymous with what you're getting. Yeah, right? Science has fluidity with anecdote and theory, but you have continuity of characteristics with the evidence. When you have continuity of it, you have reliability and stability of data. That's brilliant.
Let's say 3 people got the same response out of the 6.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say the next person heard Katie, they repeat it. And then we hear again, who's Katie? Then the third person repeats it mistakenly. Who is Katie? Now they get frustrated.
Yeah, now you're getting emotion.
Seriously.
Collaborate with it.
Yeah. Yep. I love that.
That was great. That was great.
That was fantastic. All right. So the next clip I have is called Rachel Hair Play.
Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah, this again was early on, heading out to the paranormal boot camp at Kerr City, and Rachel, who was part of our team, had gone into what we call the Father's House, and this was friends and family night. That tells you how many times that we went out to this location. So she brought a roommate, a nice gentleman, first time ever investigating, and I gave them my night vision camera to go into the father's house and film. And she's sitting up in the father's bedroom, and he's panning across, and she's talking about the boys, the younger team members that had come into the place, and they're a little bit more rambunctious as young boys are. As she said, do they bother you? Is you don't like having them in your home, things like that. And just keep an eye on your screen, looking at Rachel, the left side, where her hair. Well, you'll see.
All right, here's that clip.
I know you've told Jeff to get out. You didn't want him in here. You didn't want the boys in here. Do you think they're disrespectful?
Wow.
Yeah, saw that.
Yeah, it's short, so if you want to play it a couple more times.
Let me play that again.
That's good.
That was great.
I know you've told Jeff to get out. You didn't want him in here. You didn't want the boys in here. Do you think they're disrespectful?
I can't even do that. I can't even do that eyebrow thing people do when they I can't even do that. So there's no way to fake that.
So Tony, for those of our viewers that might have missed it, can you play it one more time? And everybody that's watching, watch the hair sitting on her left shoulder.
Yes.
Right, screen right.
I know you've told Jeff to get out. You didn't want him in here. You didn't want the boys in here. Do you think they're disrespectful?
There is no physical, scientific explanation for that. It went against gravity. It moved as a whole, not even just like a couple of strands. That was amazing. That was really cool.
Wow.
That was great.
I caught that on review. I contacted Rachel immediately. I sent her the clip. She says, I never even felt that. She goes, but I did hear a whisper in my ear. And yeah, so she had an experience, but she didn't know how profound an experience that it was. But incidentally, her name is Rachel Jett, and she is the sister of Aaron Sagers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Little fun fact for you.
Little fun fact there, yeah, and that would explain her interest in the paranormal. So yes,
yeah, tremendous. She's tremendous.
Yes.
that was a great experience for her, and dumbfounded when they captured it.
Wow, that was amazing.
Well, and to talk about corroboration of evidence too is, you caught that on the review. She didn't feel it, but at the same time, she's saying she heard something in her ear. That alone, that's corroboration of evidence. Yep. You've got two experiences going on at the same time that she didn't even know one of them happened. That's fantastic.
That's
and for people watching too, and we always point this out in different pieces of evidence. She did not move. So you can say, oh, maybe she would, whatever, but no, she didn't react at all to an entire section of her hair moving.
Right.
Now, for somebody who doesn't have a lot of hair, let me assure you that that's phenomenal that all moved and she did not react or know it even happened.
Yeah,
well, she didn't turn her neck, she didn't turn her head, she didn't move her arms or hands.
And the thing was, for everybody out there who thinks it's a breeze, her hair moves in a certain direction that the wind was blowing here, but her hair is just as long on the other side and it didn't move.
Yeah,
so
nothing else moved.
It's not like it swirled around her and lifted this side. So just for everybody out there going, it's like,
no, that's very important to point out, because that was not wind driven. You didn't even see any wisps of hair. Like that was all in formation. Like it just was like one piece.
Right.
Well, and for a breeze to come through that room, there was curtains behind her. There was other things behind her in the frame of the video also. For just this one section to move and somebody to say that was wind is a crock of shit, because there would have been all kinds of things moving around her, not just the other side of her hair. It would have been the curtains behind her. It would have been other things you would have pointed out. No, just a 6 section of hair is ridiculous.
And the movement wasn't even, it wasn't lofting like wind too. It was very abrupt, and it was like a little shift.
Yeah.
Right. It was almost as if a little hand maybe grabbed it and just, tugged or something. But
I dissected the hell out of it, guys. And if you want to play it one more time, I only want to do this so that you can pick out too. There's a point where she's got her thumb out and her thumb comes back. So I'm thinking rubber band, anything possible that could create that scenario, and it's impossible. And I can also attest to this, although none of you are there, we're present, but that second floor is completely sealed. There's no windows that have been opened up for decades on decades. So there's no draft in this place whatsoever. But when she does the thumb thing and then the hair goes back, I started to look and I said, did you have a rubber band? Did you have a squid? What are those things that you guys tie your hair up with? Was a scrunchie on there and it snapped back? She goes, no, George. And it's true. Every time I've ever worked with Rachel, she's always got her hair down the exact same way. So that was an amazing thing.
All right, here it is one more time.
I know you've told Jeff to get out. You didn't want him in here. You didn't want the boys in here. Do you think they're disrespectful?
Every time I see it, I still get shocked. I'm like, that's freaking great.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's top shelf evidence. That's unbelievable.
It moves weird, like
it's not natural. It's not a natural movement at all.
And like George pointed out, if it would have been like a scrunchie or a rubber band or something for her hair, she would have reacted to it snapping back. She didn't.
Right. That was incredible.
Wow.
That was incredible. All right. So the next one I have is titled Something Freaked Him Out.
Something freaked her out.
Freaked her out.
Yeah. This takes us back to the old jail. And this is the the time that we lost our team member Stephanie to the group, she quit this night. It was her experience to see a full body apparition of one of the inmates at the location.
Wow.
And there's an audio that I have of her too, her actual experience as she's experiencing this. And she freaks out. I think it's on our TikTok, as a matter of fact, too. But it's where she just says, you know, you freaked me out. And I thought it was Mark, and Mark was 2 of the jail cells down, and it really freaked me. And then as they're pulling her out from there, which was up in general population, and taking her outside, that's when you hear a spirit say something freaked her out.
Huh.
All right. Here is that clip. Wow.
I hear that.
Clear.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let me play that one more time.
Yeah.
It's got an
You
accent.
can't miss that. You cannot miss that.
It's got a slight accent too.
And
There is
on the old platform that Ken and I were on, we actually had Stephanie come join us and talk about this experience, and one of our other investigators that was with us for the longest time that left because of phenomena that was just too intense. And again, it's not for everybody.
No.
You can have a passion for this, or you can have an interest. That interest can wane one or two ways. You get bored or you get scared.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And but when you have a love for this, you expect both, and you use both to your advantage.
Yes.
That is true.
And you got to have a certain level of crazy to be able to deal with it
I
too.
always say that. It's
Yeah.
true. A little bit.
When you can.
I agree.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right. So the next one I'm going to play is called "Take Me In There."
Kerr City, heading back to the main house, all by myself, running my camera. Self-explanatory. It's a lower voice. Hopefully, you guys can hear it. Female.
All right. Here it is.
Easy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You can hear it.
Clear as a bell.
Yeah. And I've had that voice a couple times out at that location. So, you know, there's out in the cemetery, there are people out there that, you know, from the start of this place, it was doomed. It was absolutely doomed. And the saddest part was seeing some of the headstones that were only this big, and it was infants. Infants who didn't survive the winter, infants who didn't survive the fire. It's a sad experience out there. You know, like I said, to find Michael Jackson in the middle of all that is just a little bit of breath of fresh air. A lot of it's dark.
Yeah, that was a thriller.
Thriller.
Got to make a change.
That was good, Ken. That was good.
Every Sunday, I got to deal with that. Every Sunday.
Yeah,
right,
eventually you have to look at the man in the mirror, George.
Makes you wonder if the girl's name is Billie Jean.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And
We can go on forever with this.
we are the world.
This could last a while.
No.
Moving right along.
We are the children.
All right. So the next one I'm going to play is titled "They're Coming."
Okay, yeah, that's me. And this was recorded at the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast.
Oh, wow.
We had 2 investigators. First thing you'll hear in this clip is one of them say flash, which is typical when someone's taking still photography. A flash goes off. That means flash, wait 2 seconds for everybody to close their eyes so they don't get blinded. And so everybody does that. And then they're about to enter one of the bedrooms. I believe it was the Emma Borden's bedroom, the sister. So there was some hesitancy on one of their parts, and you'll hear the investigator after she said flash say, "Are you okay?" Now, just before you hear the voice we recorded, you'll hear the door being turned, the knob on the door being turned, and then we had a recorder we had recorders everywhere. So this particular recorder is actually inside the room, and you hear what amounts to a heads up, a warning of some type. So you can play it, see what you think.
All right, here's that clip.
Flash. Maybe not.
Wow.
That's clear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. Let me play that one more time real quick because that was short. Here it is again.
Sure.
Flash. Maybe not.
Yeah. Yep.
That bears pointing out. You'll hear Class A thrown around a lot in the evidentiary world, and a lot of times it's not necessarily what the evidence is, because Class A by definition is unmistakable that it's anomalous and what it's saying.
Right.
So I point that out now because that is classic Class A. Like that was spot on. There's no missing what was just said.
Yeah, a lot of times what we do is we use something called the rule of three. And basically, if all three people agree on what was said, and obviously we're putting captions on this thing, which typically I would never do because I want it to be objective and subjective. If three people agree on it, then that's what it says. If two of the three people agree, maybe it's a B. If none of them agree, then it's either a C or we just move on. So these are things that we pretty much, can agree that this is what was said with or without the caption.
Yeah, definitely.
But the key to this, of course, is that click just before the voice.
Yep.
And that particular recorder was on the inside of the Morse room. We have one in every bedroom in every area. We triangulate these things to see what's louder on playback, because if it appears on multiple recorders set at the same volume level and they're all the same brand of recorders, which we use, then obviously it's coming from that direction, along with 360-degree microphones and, all this long-haired geeky stuff that we use. That's really boring to everybody to hear about it. But as soon as the door opens from that room, there is some type of alert or warning to someone. Like, they're coming in, everybody look busy. I don't know.
It was definitely a warning, though. They flat out that was unmistakably they're coming. So that was a great catch. Great catch. All right. So the next one I have is called Truck.
Yeah, this is
what did it say?
It's a country song.
It's a country song.
This is a story. This hits close to home. This is about a team member, Amanda, who tragically passed away at a young age of 23. Who almost immediately after started making contact, and that's for another time to talk about how incredible she was before and after her passing. But in this particular case here, we were trying to figure out the mystery of her death. It was in the middle of the night. It was on a very, very dead area of a road, a main road, not a highway so much, but a state road. And one of the things that we were getting told time and again was that it was a truck playing chicken with her in the middle of the night. And that's when she swerved, the truck rolled over and she hit a tree and broke her neck, and that was it. And again, there's so much more to this story. It could, again, you could write a book about it, and it'll bring you to tears. But in this particular case, we went back out 1 year anniversary, out to the location again. And again, when spirit box usage is done, I am a huge proponent for repetition, redundant response, for trigger words, things of that. And I asked her in this particular one if she could respond to us saying, if it's true, you said this last year that this was a truck that created this, or this horrible tragedy. Could you repeat truck, say truck, truck, truck? And this is what we got.
Wow. All right. Here's that clip.
3 times like you did for me last year. Truck, truck, truck.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Let me play that again because they're fast and they're a little light, but they're all three there.
Yep.
Here it is again.
3 times like you did for me last year. Truck, truck, truck.
Yeah. And it wasn't like truck, truck, truck. It wasn't 3 different voices or that, like you would normally hear across a bandwidth. It's her voice. I recognized it 3 times back to back.
Yep.
You know,
you can hear it. You can hear it. It's much lighter than when you're speaking, but it is clearly there, and you can hear it. Truck, truck, truck.
Well, it's a very distinctive voice too. It's got the tonality. It's got the expression. It's something very recognizable. That especially if you knew her, George. I mean, you'd recognize that voice right away. Yeah.
Yeah, her and her entire family that was there. Her mother was there. Her 2 sisters were there. Her best friends were there, and they were just blown away by the experience and the contact. And the funny thing about it is, to this day, and a lot of the different things we did, especially when we were doing a lot of spirit box sessions a few years back, Amanda was the go-to person for dialogue with other people who did not know how to use this device. So she would be the person to show them how to converse over that. And the same thing when we did this incredible experiment with Sharon Coral at Rolling Hills Rolling Hills Asylum, where I was here in Florida, and I had sent Amanda and Colette, 2 spirits that are always around me, up there to assist in a Frank's box session for the insane people there. And the responses were crazy. What came over this box was them to be able to assist in that dialogue and that communication. No different, again, where Ken is reaching people from, 2 centuries ago, and somebody in between may be able to assist them in understanding the contraptions that we use as paranormal investigators.
Wow.
Making connections is what it's about.
That makes sense. That makes sense. All right. So I only have one left to play. And this one is titled, Who Is This?
Okay.
You played go ahead.
All right. So, again, we're in New York. We are in someone's basement who was kind enough to let us come in and film this thing. So we have Julie DeMay, our videographer extraordinaire, who is behind the camera, and you're going to see Cody. I don't know if Cody went to bed or if he's still in chat or whatever.
I haven't seen him in a while.
Cody, if you're still there. But Cody's there and beginning to ask questions in a session, as we typically do. And right off the get-go, before they even get started, someone is asking them to identify themselves. So this is what it sounded like.
All right. Here is that clip.
Does anything look the same now as it looked before?
About 30 or 45 seconds ago, right? I think, Cody, before you asked that last question, I thought I heard a female audible.
Wow.
Okay.
That was clear as a bell. I mean, that was unbelievable.
Now, Julie heard this because when Julie has her camera, let's face it, a microphone is a microphone. It doesn't have to be a recorder. It can be a video camera. So she has shotgun mics on this, and she is listening in headphones. So she was able to pick that up. And Julie has this little trick. When she hears something, she will run her hand across the viewfinder, the lens of the camera. So when she reviews it and sees this happen, then she'll say, oh, I don't want to miss this. Something triggered that. So it's just a little key that she uses to remind herself. It's kind of like I have a habit of, when I think I hear something and I've got a recorder, I'll tap the mic 3 times. So when I hear it on a sound program, I'll have these 3 enormous spikes.
Yep.
And I'll say, ooh. I got to go back.
It was right before that, right?
So it's something a little bit that she does, but they hadn't really started yet, and just someone who was there wanted to know who was in their basement. Simple. It's basically as simple as that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That was unbelievably clear, though. I mean, that was
very clear.
Tonality. You had expression, emotion within the sentence. That was awesome. That was absolutely awesome.
Just
you could play it again.
Somebody being inquisitive. That's all.
Absolutely. Here is that clip.
Does anything look the same now as it looked before?
About 30 or 45 seconds ago, right? I think, Cody, before you asked that last question, I thought I heard a female audible.
Yeah.
That's
She
did.
She was correct.
She was very much so correct. Wow, I just gotta say thank you, because that was just an amazing set of paranormal captures, and with the utmost of experience in doing this, because every explanation you gave and the background of what the situation was, what your environment was, who was there, who was making noises, what recorders or devices you guys were using, that's what really identifies what's paranormal and what's not paranormal. And you both are experts at that. And that was a real treat, not only for us, but I'm sure for our audience as well. Yeah. So that was incredible.
I think the pleasure was ours tonight, just to be invited on with you guys. It's always great to see you. We love you guys.
Great to see you guys.
You do great work. You got such great perspectives, and we talked about this with you before, the way that you approach this field and the questions that you ask and keep asking. But what I really admire personally is all you guys keep evolving. You know what I mean? It's like, we don't know. I've got a sign over here in my office you can't see that just says "We don't know shit." Every once in a while, that's just when I start to think that I'm pretty hot stuff, I just kind of look at that for a moment. It's like, no, man. But
always more shit to know.
Yeah, I love all your approaches, and thanks so much for.
Vice versa. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Means a lot. Means a lot from people like you guys. It means a lot to us.
Yeah, we Ken and I have an ultimate goal, and that's to put you guys out of business.
I'll take that challenge.
It's to present that evidence, that one show, and you guys go, "Good night." That's it. Signing off.
Hey, it bears mentioning, so no one gets the idea that this is normal. I mean, this is years of doing this, and it doesn't happen all the time. A lot of people, wow, everywhere you go is active. It's like, I wish that were true.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ron has this phrase, which I absolutely just have been using lately because I love the way that he says it. But what you guys showed tonight is not pedestrian level evidence. I mean, this is not something you just walk into a building and catch every time you're out. These are top-notch catches, and they do not happen on a regular basis.
I've got a bunch of pedestrian stuff if you ever want to hear it. We can have fist fights over what's said,
we're in an age that we're told is the age of enlightenment, but really more of, in a lot of ways, in the age of entertainment, with how stuff is presented to us and how we're spoon-fed paranormal stuff and what the evidence should be, and everything's demonic, everything else. So to take an entertainment perspective, to look at the quality of what you guys have shared tonight and the insight you had about it off the top of your heads, it's what in entertainment would be, they call the overnight success, right? Someone has been in the trenches, grinding it out, doing it right because they want to, because their passion makes them not quit for years. Right. And then all of a sudden they pop onto the scene and it's the overnight success. So that's the same thing. I think people need to look at what you guys presented tonight, and that's top shelf stuff. Like you said, doesn't happen everywhere. It doesn't happen all the time.
Right.
And then to know as much as you know about it and how you captured it and everything else, that is unmistakably the voice of experience talking.
Agreed.
That's very gracious.
I completely
of you to
agree.
say that. Thank you, bro.
Yep.
We appreciate that. And again, when we have a chance, and I think we have enough spaces on our screen to have all you guys come join us on Sunday. We'd love to have you back.
That
We're a big
that
family.
would be wonderful.
Yeah, bring the thunder, guys. Bring
That's
the
right.
thunder.
That would be wonderful.
You would be
Okay,
honored.
so real quick, I want to give a shout out to everyone who has been in the audience tonight. Thank you so much for always joining in. Without you guys, there would be no reason for us to do a show. Without you listening and paying attention, that whole point goes out the window. I want to say thank you to KGRA, to Bill Forte for always getting us up, produced, and out the door and live into your hands. And I want to give a special thank you to Ken DeCosta and George Lopez for coming on tonight and presenting some fantastic evidence. So thank you both.
For those of you in Vegas, we'll be here all week. Try the veal.
One more night.
And last but not least, Chris or Audra, who wants to give our closing line?
Guys, if we have two gentlemen on tonight that are just the quiz essential examples of what experience, what great investigating, situational awareness, everything that we preach every week, what good investigators need to be. These guys are the great example of what a excellent expert investigators are. And if you want to learn more, make sure you watch their Dead Air Full Spectrum on KGRA. If you want to see great evidence like you saw tonight, which is going to be hard to top, so the bar's set for the next guest, you got to watch Entity Voices Paranormal Evidence. And if you want to catch Michael Jackson getting pissed off, you got to stay haunted.
Come on.